Hello friends! Today I would like to talk to you about this book. It is called On the Warrior's Path, Philosophy, Fighting, and Martial Arts Mythology by Daniele Bolelli. So, over a decade ago I crossed this book in a bookstore and I recognized the author's name as one of my professors from university. I had really liked him and his class. The class had nothing to do with martial arts, and so I immediately picked it up and I fell in love with the book. And this is the book that inspired me to become involved in Filipino martial arts. So I figured it's relevant to the channel and I should talk about it. I always struggle with how to describe this book to people. Calling it a martial arts philosophy book is probably the most accurate, but that probably only sounds appealing to a very tiny demographic of people, although hopefully larger on this channel. It's a philosophy book, but it's not the kind of airy mental masturbation book that the philosophy genre lends itself to. And no offense, philosophy fans, I have a degree in philosophy. The philosophy in it can be extrapolated to so much more than martial arts. I feel like this book is relevant to everybody. It should be. I suppose you could even call it a self-help book, but that description kind of makes me want to stick my head in a blender. It's smart, but it's never condescending. It's funny. It's full of eclectic references from everything to Nietzsche, to sports, to Star Wars. It's accessible, but not at the sacrifice of intelligence. It's a very opinionated book, and it's full of curse words, so it might not appeal to everybody, but it very much appealed to me. It's probably impossible to summarize everything that it encompasses, but this video is my best shot. At its core, the book is about the warrior archetype. Not just the ubiquitous warriors of tribal cultures and feudal societies, but also the metaphorical warriors who exhibit the same fiery spirit and fearless attitude. Bolelli argues that this isn't just some abstract mythos to muse over or read about in books. The samurai you see fighting in the movies is more than thrilling entertainment. He's a hyperbolic manifestation of something that's absolutely critical to human experience. The book is not saying that we should be picking up swords and fighting each other, although if you do that, that's great too, but that the mythology of the warrior has something to offer us. Something valuable that transcends culture and time and class and career and gender. There is a reason that those martial arts movies speak to us, and it's not because we find the plot engaging. In fact, sometimes they don't even have a plot. It's because the archetypal figure in it speaks to our souls. Bolelli looks at martial arts as one potential avenue to cultivate the personal warrior spirit, and it's the one he's chosen. Although it may not always manifest in reality, martial arts has for centuries encouraged that essential harmony between the body and the mind, the physical and the mental. There is a river of philosophical introspection in shaping one's character that's at the foundation of martial arts. But just as an academic who spends too much time buried in books, abstract philosophy by itself is not enough. Shaping the mind is nothing if you ignore the body. Martial arts has the ability to take that deep insight and ground it into something physical, and that lies its uniqueness. The book doesn't argue that martial arts is the only way to do this, but as a martial artist himself, Bolelli is writing from his own experience. If the first half of the book is about extrapolating the warrior mythology into our lives, the second half, save for one particular personal chapter, is about injecting it into martial arts. I suppose that sounds kind of weird, since you might think it's already there, but it's often not. A lot of martial arts is too driven by ego and other bullshit, and people too busy aligning themselves into specific categories. Bolelli discusses the different warrior archetypes that you find in the media and in mythology, from the honor-bound samurai to the lawless mercenary, and the strengths of each of them and what they represent, but the flaws they also must fight. The book is critical of the status of martial arts today, and the rigidity of many classical schools of fighting. He evaluates the paradigm shift that was brought on by things like UFC, MMA, and Bruce Lee's Jeet Kune Do, which started a revolution that allowed martial arts to grow and become more dynamic and apply that philosophy of take what works and leave what doesn't. The second half of the book is a little more structured, objective, with more concrete information compared to the earlier half of the book. It's also a little bit disjointed. I think it was actually originally written in Italian and then translated and inserted in this book for English readers. Although the content is still appropriate and relevant, and Bolelli's good about tying it all together with an overall theme, the writing style is very different from the first half. It's less relaxed, it's littered with citations that you didn't previously see much of, and you can definitely feel the transition between halves. If you're scared of academic style writing, you might not like the second part of this book, but I'm a person who is very comfortable enveloped in the delicious citations and footnotes, so I enjoy the second half as much as the first. The heart of this book is a lesson about the way we approach and live our lives. The book is very Zen Buddhist, it's very Taoist, but not in a preachy way. I'm not really sure a Taoist can be preachy. It emphasizes the importance of balance. It's about forging our paths bravely, being in charge of our destiny, even though we can't always have total control. It's about loving peace, but charging fearlessly into battle when that's what's required of us. It's about living fully, Don't be an athlete that doesn't know how to read a book, and don't be a scholar who just thinks of their body as transportation for their brain. A housewife can be a warrior, a soldier can set aside his rifle and cradle a baby, and a fighter can write poetry. Our lives are what we make of them, and we owe it to ourselves to instill that power and meaning into that experience. So that's my review of this book. I hope you enjoyed the review, and I really hope you check out the book. I'll put a link to it down in the description. Like I said, this book inspired me in a lot of ways. It definitely inspired my path into the Filipino martial arts. So it means a lot to me, and hopefully you can find meaning in it as well. Thank you for watching, guys.